everyone, thanks for joining me on Gilbhub TV. Today I am going to be looking at my Kindle and telling you a little bit about a couple of books that I've read recently. I have read lots of books on my Kindle and they are a mixture of fiction, some reference, some which are for work and for career where I'm learning, and some which are just general interest, non-fiction type things. These two are both fictional, so these are both just for fun reading. And there's a bit of a pattern going on at the moment. I really tend to like when I read dystopian future novels is one. These aren't those, but I'll come to those in another video. So dystopian future novels where it's the future world and everything's gone horribly wrong is something that I strangely enjoy. And I also like books with a bit of mystery, and particularly with a non-linear narrative is something I've found. So this book and the other one I'm going to talk about both have that in common. So this one is called The House We Grew Up In by Lisa Jewell, and I highly recommend it, as I do with all of these books that I bought. I'm just going to quickly read you the blurb that would be normally on the back of the book. So, The House We Grew Up In by Lisa Jewell. When a tragedy breaks a family apart, what can bring it back together? The Birds seem to be the perfect family. Mother, father, 4 children, a picture book cottage in the country. But when something happens one Easter weekend, it is so unexpected, so devastating, that no one can talk about it. The family shatters seemingly forever, until they are forced to return to the house they grew up in and to confront what really took place all those years ago. Ooh. So I read that on the back of the book and I thought I need this for my Kindle. And it, as with most books on Kindle, it was really, really cheap and a really, really good deal. But it's a great story. It's something that I'm not going to give anything away, but it's, like I say, it's a non-linear narrative, which makes it really, really interesting. Because you get to know these characters and you jump back and forth in time. So you'll see these people when they're children, when they're growing up, when things are kind of still quite normal, and then you kind of creep towards like the event, and then you jump forward past the event, and so you're still not quite sure what it was. And now you're seeing them as adults, and you kind of grow with these characters. You see them as they develop, as they grow up, and when you go back in time, you kind of start to understand the reasons behind the things that you've read already from the future. So if you can get your head around that kind of back and forth thing, which it is, when you read it, it's not confusing, it's not difficult to get your head around, then it's a really, really interesting way, I think, to tell a story. And it's certainly an interesting way to take a story in. If you're a film buff and you've seen the film Memento, it's not exactly like that because that's more kind of backwards. But it's that similar thing of where you see something and you think you've got it, and then you learn a bit more about how you got to that moment, and suddenly you see it from a whole new angle. So it's that kind of story, and it's really gripping and a little bit dark, and the characters are really three-dimensional, and you really get involved in their world and their home and their lives. And it's just, yeah, it was one of those ones where I looked forward to my commute in the days when I was commuting, to get to read this, to get to pick up my Kindle and find out a little bit more. The next book I want to tell you about is called Tigers in Red Weather, and I believe it came out, was it a year ago, possibly even 2 years ago? I'd have to look it up. But I remember it was advertised on billboards at the time as the summer read, so I went and got it. And it's by Lisa Klaussmann, or Liza Klaussmann. And again, it's got a kind of funny narrative. It's non-linear again, but it's also told from different perspectives. So you've got this set of central characters in the book who you become, again, very kind of attached to and very close to. And the narrative is told from each of their perspectives. So you'll start off with one perspective and it will go through what happened and continue in that way, and then you'll suddenly see it from someone else's perspective in the next chapter, which is again a really interesting way of revealing more information than perhaps you had the first time round. And you think you know what's going on, and then things change, and there's all these questions that are kind of lingering, and then they get answered, and it's very, very gripping in that way. So this is Tigers in Red Weather by Lisa Klaussmann. Nick and her cousin Helena have grown up sharing sultry summers at Tiger House, the glorious old family estate on the island of Martha's Vineyard. As World War II ends, they are on the cusp of adulthood, the world seeming to offer itself up to them. Helena is leaving for Hollywood and a new marriage, while Nick is to be reunited with her young husband Hughes, due to return from London and the war. Everything is about to change. Neither quite finds the life she had imagined, and as the years pass, the trips to Tiger House take on a new complexity. Then, on the brink of the 1960s, Nick's daughter Daisy and Helena's son Ed make a sinister discovery. It plunges the island's bright heart into private shadow and sends a depth charge to the heart of the family. Summer seemed to arrive at that moment, with its mysterious mixture of salt, cold flesh, and fuel. Magnificently told from 5 perspectives, Tigers in Red Weather is an unforgettable debut, a simmering novel of passion, betrayal, and secret violence beneath a polished and fragile facade. So, very interesting book. Again, a little bit dark, which apparently I like in fiction. But yeah, really, really worth a read. And the switching between different characters and different time planes is not as difficult as it sounds to keep up with, first of all. So don't be put off by that. But it's really, really interesting and really gripping and a really, really entertaining read. So definitely get it. Again, it's not very expensive if you get it on Kindle. I don't know how much it is in paperback or hardback, but I can't imagine that it's very much. It's a great summer read, but it'll do any time of year. I would very much recommend it. So have a look at Tigers in Red Weather and The House We Grew Up In. I'll put the links below to Amazon and also to Goodreads, where I review all of the books that I read on my Kindle or elsewhere. So thanks for watching, and please check out my other videos. You can also check out my website, which will give you examples of my other video work and also my copywriting, and that's www.gilbhub.com. That's gilbhub.com, and I will put the link below. And you can also catch up with me on Twitter at @HannahGilb.